Thanks for joining me for Where I'm From 98 with Natalie. What have you been reading? Are you doing summer reads? I read Quietly Hostile by Samantha Irby, which is kind of a summer read because it's funny and I love her, and she describes her personality as quietly hostile, which I thought was hilarious. And the essay that made me laugh the most was like the second to last one because it gets really silly, and she talks about raising children with her wife, and I loved it. I hope it's not too hot where you are. Um, I know it's pretty rough out there right now. What else? I'm waiting for Natalie. Here she is. Okay. Here she is. Hi, Natalie.
Hi, how are you? Sorry,
I'm good.
it's great to see you.
You too. It's nice to connect with people and actually see their faces and hear their voices and those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah. Do you have a stand, or you're trying to
I'm gonna
balance?
try to figure something out. Oh, I have something. All of these Amazon things will certainly come in handy right now. There we go. How are
So
you?
how hot is it where you are? I know that
I
it's
I
brutal.
think people might be mad at me. It's not hot at all. We're in Seattle and it's I think the highest 75
Okay.
today. So
That's lovely. Good for you.
it
It
is
gives, it's not so bad here either, and I feel very grateful because we're close to
you-
the ocean, so that helps a lot.
exactly. I know our friends in the
Um,
middle are struggling, I
oh
think,
yeah,
and
all
yeah.
over the world,
No.
it's really hard, and we knew it was coming, but it's still
Mhm.
hard to see.
Yeah.
Um, how are you otherwise? Do you want to share anything about anything before you read your poem, or do you want to just go for it?
I'm great. Home for the summer, I think. Yeah, just vacation and summer and kids, a lot of kid time right now, but yeah, but it's been great. It's been really lovely.
I was telling my kids that that was one of the hardest things for me when I finished school was like, oh, there's not summer anymore. Like in this same way that there was for 25, 26 years, because I also have a graduate degree. So it went on a long
Mhm.
time having summers, and it is a wonderful thing. And I wish we had a more European system where you at least have some acknowledgement of summer, because I do think it's important or nice
Yeah,
to have a point where you're like, oh, we're not doing the same thing we do every day
exactly. And I
for
love the idea of
endless amounts of time.
yeah, or all of August off or something. Or everything
Yeah.
shuts down and it's like permission to play. That's where
Hmm.
I would love that.
Yeah. Or just to do nothing,
Mhm.
to just kind of decompress. And it's hard. It's hard to do now, where back then it was like, oh no,
Mhm. Yep, there's
I
always
need this.
something. Yes,
Yeah.
I know. Change it all. I'm ready for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I'm happy to read. I'm
Go for
happy
it.
to. Okay. And it's fun to be 98. It feels very close to
It
100.
is very
It
close.
is. I love
I've
that.
seen it ticking forward. I'm going to have a special guest for my 100th, my husband. So
Oh, perfect. I
I'm
love
getting
that.
getting him to write a poem. So he's like, "Oh, it's close now. I really need to do that." I'm like,
Get right on
"You,
that
you
for
do."
100.
Hmm.
99 and 100. Okay, I love that. So, number 98. It's like a Dave
Yes.
Matthews song. Okay. I am from a six-person cherrywood table under a yellow Tiffany lamp. From Windex and cool, mild cigarettes. I am from early 80s colonial style homes and cul-de-sacs. Newly constructed, a garage full of cleats, the sound of summer cicadas playing as we bike to the pool. I am from the front yard weeping willow tree that whispered as I sat and read Flea Market Nancy Drew books and the Babysitters Club series. I'm from macaroni and gravy and what will they think of me? I'm from All Saints, Philip Thomas and Rita Francis. I'm from Keep an Eye on the Time and You Can Do Anything. I'm from Smile Pretty and Sit Still and Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. I'm from the stand up, sit down, kneel, 5 o'clock mass, skipping out on the recessional hymn to grab quarter pounders with cheese, fries, and icy cokes kind of Catholic church. I'm from Philadelphia, one half Irish and Beatle loving, and one half Italian, a Rolling Stones devotee. It was always manicotti on holidays and pizza bagels after being dragged to my mom's Jane Fonda style jazzercise classes. My dad quietly did the 7 a.m. grocery shopping, the laundry, and mowed the lawn. Now he has all our Polaroids slowly fading in an old shoebox in his attic, amid piles of high school mementos, prom dresses, and old flannels that my sisters and I used to wear. But the books and journals came with me to Seattle, now nestled in a hallway closet connected to both of my daughter's rooms, as did the pictures of my mother, gone 22 years, her Revlon red smile, teeth like chiclets, now scattered around my house, smiling at all of us, creating a collage of love, life, and loss across states, places, and time.
That was beautiful. I wasn't sure if you were going to write about your mom, because I obviously know you've lost your mom because I've read some of your work, and I reread the Huffington Post piece last night, which made me cry again. And I wasn't sure if you'd work her into the poem, since I know you lost her later in your life.
Yeah, I didn't. It was interesting when I wrote this. I kept coming back to like this idea of where I'm from as a child.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like where I'm from is from all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though I lost her when I was, 24, 25, it still felt like the pieces that are coming with me, right? As I'm kind of moving across the country, and we've been in Seattle for about 16 years now. And it just all felt like a package, even the childhood, because it was, perhaps early mother loss, but not early, but it's still part of like,
well, she never met your
and
children too.
And,
that next phase of your life,
yeah,
she wasn't able to be a part of.
Exactly. I think that was the other thing. As soon as I started writing about my daughters, I was like, oh, that's they're just connected for me, for sure.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I think we see the people we've lost and the people we love who never met them. It's striking to me sometimes how I'll see pieces of my brother specifically, and my children. And I wish that, they had an opportunity to meet one another and know each other. So, and you talk to your daughters about your mother, so it makes sense that would be a part of your poem. And I do think that kind of life-changing grief, it sort of reframes everything else, even what came before.
Absolutely. I think it is a lens, that I see things with now. And I think that the last couple of lines, right, kind of pulled those things together in one house, in one life, in one there's so much kind of in between and kind of linked with all of that. So
so I thought that was beautiful and really emotional and so true to you and what you write about for your ending. And then obviously there were things, Jane Fonda really takes it back for me. It's like, I love being reminded of things that didn't make it into my poem and I don't necessarily think about, but are very evocative of a time.
An era, for sure.
Yeah, I think there were so many of those tapes, and it's very difficult to explain to anyone now. It wasn't just one Jane Fonda workout tape. It was like a whole library full of Jane Fonda workout tapes.
I know. I wish I had more in that section because I wanted to talk about the outfit that she was wearing and the tights and the leotards. And it was like we would sit on the stage, especially on the days that we had school off and she still had her exercise class. It would be me and my sisters and my friend and her sister and brother. We're all sitting on the stage and just watching the sea of like our moms just sweating it out. It was something. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a community, like it was something they could share and do together that wasn't about necessarily being a mom. I know it sort of gets a framing of being about fitness or being about being hot, but I don't really think it was about that for a lot of women.
Not at all. I think it was about the community for sure. Yeah. And it was always about the after. Again, it was always about what are we gonna eat after and where are we going? So
And cool cigarettes. Do those
I
still exist?
don't
Are they?
know,
Yeah.
actually. It's such
I
a,
feel like they don't, but
I don't know. Such a vivid memory. The packaging, the
hmm
green on the packaging, just kind of ashtrays around. Yeah, hard. And I couldn't put it in there also, but Michelob or Miller High Life was the thing.
hmm
It was always on
hmm
the porch in the winter. We didn't even bother putting it in a freeze, in the refrigerator. It's
No,
just,
because you're
yep, just
filling.
on the porch. Yep.
So what was it like for you writing your poem?
It was such a great experience because I haven't, well, it was timely. I had just been with my dad for a week. And
Mm,
every time I'm with him, I'm really curious. I have questions, not just about my mom, but about his family and, you know, all this extended family that we have. And so it was really great timing to be able to write this because I had a couple things
hmm
fresh in my memory. Um, but I think also just these are the things that were really immediate in my life, just family on the outside, but these were the things that were in my own bubble. I write a lot. I think I have very fond memories of suburbia, and that's kind of what was
Yeah.
happening here. These were new houses. You all the houses looked the same. It was in
hmm
I grew up in my whole family's from Philadelphia. When I was 6, we moved to Maryland, and one of these little developments, right?
hmm
And so just to kind of be in those spaces, especially right now because it's summer, it just transported me back. And I have a lot of happy memories. And one of those memories is freedom. It's just
hmm
running around and being on my own and having a bike and feeling like I could go anywhere and be with anybody. And so
Yeah.
it was really great to relive that. And also as my kids are kind of home this summer. And then just some of the sayings I think was
I
really.
love the sayings. I wondered if you just had those, or did you have other ones that you were competing for space, or were those just the standout choices?
These are the standouts. I had a couple of others that, but these were the Jesus, Mary, and Joseph was just sort of the motto of our household,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think. And just or the other one would have been sort of a garble of mine and my sister's names as someone was
hmm
yelling and
hmm
running through the names.
hmm
But yeah, like the ones in our house, and it was, oh my gosh, be sit still, or you have so much energy, or oh my gosh. And
hmm
then also at the same time I had to kind of capture this as there was a real sense of like you could do anything you wanted to. And I remember my mom kind of saying, you're you're going to go to college and you're going to do these things and things that maybe that she didn't have the chance to do too. So it was a lot of funny things, but then also some really like serious and also uplifting mantras that I've held on to. The other one that I didn't put on there was be yourself, just because that was
hmm
something, I would go on a job interview or do something, and that was always kind of just be yourself. That's all you can be, and
hmm
I love that too.
That's very sweet. And I think when it was said to me, I was just like, oh, it's
Right,
not that easy,
right.
you know?
And now I feel like it's something I'm telling my children daily, like
Yeah.
just be your awesome you and be your own self, and yeah.
It's so complicated, though, I think, as you go out into the world.
Hmm.
And because I felt a lot of pressure to perform something effortless, but smart, but, like all these things that overlapping circles that don't actually overlap. So then that left me feeling just spread in so many different directions.
Hmm.
I feel like being myself is like the project of my later life. Who is
Absolutely.
myself, and
It was,
being able to be that person everywhere,
yeah.
not just certain
It,
spaces.
yeah, I think that was the sort of the duality in my house. Is like be yourself, but also remember people are thinking about you and seeing you. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
that, like the back and forth of raising children essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just rewatched Lady Bird. I don't know if you've seen that film. It's so wonderful. And
Okay.
the mom says to her in one point, I just want you to be the best version of yourself. When she says, but don't you just love me? And she says, well, I do, but I just want you to be the best version of who you are. And
Yes.
I thought that was a really uh, spoke to, I think, a lot of what was going on when we were kids. Like, yes, you're great, but also be the best that you can be of this. Don't just be what this is right
Right.
now. So
Definitely. It was a yes, but today it's a yes and.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, we're trying, right? I
We
think
are.
it's still a lot of pressure, regardless.
Mhm.
It's just, I think it's hard to grow up, regardless of when it is.
All this, yes, absolutely. All the time.
And I think for me, that's part of the joy of these poems is sort of the universality of what we grapple with. The specifics are really beautiful and evocative, but I think we all, as we are grappling with where we're from and where we're now, like it is this, I don't think struggle is the right word, but it's not like necessarily an easy transition.
No. And I think when I think like a poem like this helps you sort of identify those moments, I think. Those joyful moments and maybe the ones that were a little bit more of a struggle. And I think about that, just not just this, but in other maybe pieces of writing that I read or even ones that we are writing. It's like we have these shimmering images that always come up to the surface. And there's something there, I think, to investigate and kind of interrogate and yeah, to find those, oh, this wasn't easier. This was something that made me better. But yeah, it's those sort of big and small moments. But I think the small moments offer something, or some of these ordinary items, even objects,
Yeah,
as well.
and were you surprised by anything that you found that you wrote about, or was it just as you might expect?
Um, I think what I found was I in this poem and in some of the other ones that I've read, but I find that humor is the thing that is it's connective tissue. So even though there might be some tragedy or things that are sad, we can always find some of the levity, right? I'm thinking not just of maybe what my parents said to me, but just like, the way that we were Catholic also, I think is interesting and funny, and some of these funny things that we did. And I think, yeah, I think that there's a balance, and I was surprised. I thought it would be more like, oh, this is who I am, and I was surprised to see how much humor is a part of my life, even though I write, maybe things that might be on the outset a little bit more sad. I think I'm always trying to get to, and what I find even in this poem and others, is just that there is a balance all the time.
Yeah.
And so I think that was something that I was surprised by, right? Is just how that jumped off the page for me. And yeah, I think the other interesting piece was just the getting started with this, because it's like, what is the door to all of this? It starts with kind of like an ordinary item, but I couldn't think of anything that was particularly ordinary. I felt like I had things there were objects that had value, and so I played around with it, which I think is good, right? I mean, that's a poem can be playful too. So I think once I gave myself permission to go outside
Yeah, so
little
much
bit.
of it is giving ourselves permission
Absolutely.
because we think it's for other people and not us,
Right, yeah. And then once I was like, okay, yeah, I can, all right, yeah, this too. Yeah.
Would you have any other thoughts or anything you want to share before we wrap up?
No, I really appreciate being here and talking with you about this. And, thank you. I think you have such a beautiful eye for what people are writing about, and you're always able to get right into the heart, the beat heart of what they're saying. And I really appreciate that. So
thank you. That means a lot. I really appreciate that. I'm gonna almost tear up because I'm just emotional these days, all days,
all the time.
Yeah. But I really appreciate that. I am working on, I think it's something we should all work on, realizing the things we're good at and come easy to us actually have value. It's something that I still have a challenge with,
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it has to be hard to be important. It doesn't.
No. And I think you have a real natural ability to connect, not just with the poems, but also with the author who wrote the poems. Thank you. And thank you for this exercise. And I think you know, for me, this could actually be a jumping off point for something
Yeah,
else too,
I
right?
think so. It's definitely changed the way I write. I mean, just because of this weekly practice and sometimes twice a week of listening to these poems and reading them, and it's changed the way I write. I'm so much better at concrete, specific details, which is something I struggled with because I would get in the weeds with the feeling or trying to catch, and I don't think I really knew the power of details. I was like, oh, but these are my specific, which is really the point. Obviously, I know that intellectually, but listening to it, it's amazing how we attach to things, even if we don't have an experience of them.
Right.
They feel real to us if they feel real to the writer.
Absolutely. And I think what the memories that we have in our archive, we know them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just when you bring them out, when you put them on a
Yeah.
page and then say them out loud, somebody else will be able to kind of come in with their,
Mm-hmm.
you have a memory, they have it's going to meet somehow. And I love that moment. It's something I'm always trying to remember. Oh, I know you're thinking this, but you really have to like make it
Yeah.
specific and really
Yeah.
precise, and vivid so that somebody else can pick it up and say, yeah, me too. Like this is something that I
Yeah.
also experienced.
I agree. And I just had this experience reading this book, which I haven't shared that I'm reading, but Ordinary Notes by Christina Sharp. And it's a memoir in pieces. So it is literally all these different pieces. And a lot of it is completely outside of my experience. She's a Black woman, she's an academic, and it's very powerful reading about experiences that I feel like I'm getting such an insight into someone who's different than me. And I appreciate that. And then there'll be moments where our experiences line up exactly. And somehow being like, going with the like, I haven't had this experience and then the exact experience. There's something really like moving about that.
Yeah,
How we overlap.
the personal and the universal, how
Mm-hmm.
that kind of comes together. Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you for joining me, Natalie. I
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed this.
Thank you so much. It was so great to be with you on screen and to do this exercise. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Have a wonderful day. I look forward to reading your writing in the future.
Okay, thanks,
Okay.
Allison. Have a
Okay,
great
bye.
day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.